Hi everyone, it's pretty early around here, but at Danceable Thoughts, I wanted to put together some videos for you guys that you could utilize to help teach your students about the Nutcracker. We're so excited in the dance community about the upcoming movie about the Nutcracker and the Four Realms. I can anticipate though that there's probably going to be a little bit of confusion about the story, but don't stress about that. Confusion about the story is absolutely nothing new. The story exists in so many different ways because just about every ballet company does their own production, and they make the production work for the dancers that they have, the budgets that they have, and they alter the storyline so that it works for the way they want to interpret it. So no big deal. Go with it. But I thought I would give you some background, and I'm going to do these videos so that you can watch them for yourself, or if you want to, you can share them with your students. Just don't want to make fun of the little old lady. But anyway, I want to give you sort of my Danceable Thoughts, kind of silly Angela version of the Nutcracker basics, and then in some other segments we'll talk about Act 1, we'll talk about the divertissement in Act 2, and we'll talk about some concluding thoughts. So let's start with the very beginning of the Nutcracker. The first production was a little over 100 years ago. It's credited by for the Mariinsky Theater in Russia. Mother Russia brings us this beautiful ballet production. The storyline, while it's a Russian ballet company, the storyline was actually from a written version of a German folktale. The gentleman who is credited with writing down that German folktale and making our story is E.T.A. Hoffmann. The music that we love and we know so well was composed by Tchaikovsky. He was sort of the in-house guy for the Mariinsky Theater. The composer was not necessarily super happy with this assignment, so the story goes that he would actually just look at an outline and he'd say, okay, how many counts do you want? What do you want it to sound like? They say, oh, I need this much music to celebrate the glory of Mother Russia. And I need this much music to be exotic and unusual. And I need this music to be light and airy. And those pieces of music that he kind of quickly pretty much threw out there are most of the divertissement, or the Act 2 dances and the musical selections that you hear all the time in so many different ways during the holiday season. In fact, that's one of the things that I teach my students, is that once we do all of this stuff with the Nutcracker, their ears will now be awake to and see images of the Nutcracker all kinds of places. The music is used in the background for commercials, movies that have nothing to do with ballet. Disney's original Fantasia used the Nutcracker, set it in a glorious fairies and garden setting. So the music is open for interpretation, as is the story. So we're not going to stress about it, but we're going to teach some basics. Interesting fact, this first production, a total flop. They didn't like it. The audiences didn't like it. The critics didn't like it, so they had to shelf it because the production didn't do what it was supposed to do, which was make the money for the ballet company. That's why so many ballet companies do it now. That generally that is their highest audience attended production, and it makes money for the company. And so I talk to my students often about why is that? Well, the storyline is actually very simple and very accessible, as you'll learn in the other segments. It was really created to be something that made money for the company and advertised the skills of the company and really put their best image out there. So that's why we focus on the divertissement as a project, because it is so simple and accessible. So like I was saying, that first performance, pretty much a flop. And so just like they brought in their best composer for the music, they brought in pretty much what I think of as the ringer, Petipa, as the choreographer who would come in. He worked with Ivanov, and they worked together and put stuff together. Ballet scholars will argue with you. Don't argue with anybody about it. Just go with it. The most important thing to tell your students is that first production didn't go well. Once they got the tweaks in there, they made the modifications. Now 100 plus years later, we're all studying the Nutcracker, and we all go and see it and we enjoy it. And now even in 2018, they've taken the Nutcracker and expanded the story, and who knows what worlds Misty Copeland is going to take us through. I know I can't wait. So that's your basics about the Nutcracker. I'm going to give you some opportunities to watch segments, but one about Act 1 and another one about Act 2, and those will be coming up next.